Well, that was a bit of an abrupt freeze frame on time. Blink.
Welcome to part 2 of part 2. Sorry for that slight malfunction, guys.
Oh, your internet is unstable. Is it yours or is it mine?
Speaking of our unstable topics, war, and we were talking about Egyptians that you were learning about, and the Romans and the Greeks and all that jazz. That's a very vibrant, array of history to learn.
It is,
right?
but
really cool.
By the time I got to high school and stopped learning, because when I was at the time also studying piano. So when I got to high school, which was also a public school, I was doing music instead of learning history, which was predominantly, I think, UK history. We have a lot of that. We
do have a lot of history. It's funny because when I actually worked at that attraction in London, I actually learned a lot of history that I didn't actually find out in school. Like, because it was very specific, like it walks you through the history of London, right? So you start off in like the 1500s, and then you go to the bubonic plague. And there's like a lot of things that I didn't actually learn in school. So like even the torture chamber in the 1500s, like learning about all the torture devices that, thank goodness we don't live like in a time back then. Can you imagine? Like that was absolutely brutal. Like if you stole something, you would get your hand literally taken off. And then that's what you're marked for the rest of your life. Oh, she stole something.
Well, saying that, I probably know more about the history of the crime and punishment. And I say that because Madame Tussauds, and they had sort of like the acid bath murders, they had Jack the Ripper and a bunch of other ones. And since as a child, I was always fascinated with crime. I started out with Nancy Drew.
Yeah.
But then on top of it, then went on to political crimes and stuff like that as well. So crime in general, I probably have a better understanding of the history of that than I do of the country I was born in.
There you go. And it's so like interesting to see how times have changed since back then. Like, you hear of these horrific stories where like if you were a drunk person, you would literally be forced into a barrel, and then you would have like honey doused onto and like you might have frozen again slightly.
Yeah. Are you suddenly I mean, your internet connection is unstable again.
I don't know if she's just really intensely listening, or if it's like a freeze frame. It's a freeze frame. But
you were saying.
That's what they used to do to drunk people. You used to put them in the barrels, douse them up with honey and all things nice, attract the flies, and you would literally be eaten alive in your own feces and in your own urine, and that's how you lived out the rest of your days. Like stuff like that, like it's just absolutely horrific. And Jack the Ripper murders, all that jazz, and even to this day they still don't know who it is. That's like one of the greatest crimes that they haven't quite figured out yet, because
the man who got away with it.
It was the Victorian era. They don't have forensics. Well, I'm sure that they do, but nothing like the technology we have these days, to trace fingerprints. They didn't that,
and then and then they certainly didn't have it on record.
Yeah, exactly.
As to other part, what criminals had done in the past, or what crime scenes had matching fingerprints.
Well, that's it, right? Well, that's it.
Yeah.
And it's just very interesting. And like it's as I was saying earlier, it's almost a shame that we don't learn too much about the history. Like even over here in Canada, there's a lot of history that I don't know about, with the Indigenous people. And then over where you're from, there's a lot of information that I don't know about South African culture. But to be fair, can you imagine if we taught every child ever in the world like all of the history? They'd be in school till they were like in their like mid-40s.
Well, I suppose that is the issue, considering the fact that in my early 40s, by the time I did my international relations degree, I was in my mid-40s.
Right.
And if I think of my thesis and stuff, I think to myself, really? You could have done so much better. And that's just from research that I've done post-study. I do this for fun,
Yes. Why wouldn't you acquire knowledge? There's so much knowledge in the world, and it's very admirable that you do that, because so many people don't want to learn. They don't want to learn. They want to stick their head in the sand like an ostrich and be like, not my problem.
There is more stuff out there to learn than my brain has space to keep retention of. And by the time you've got something new, you've forgotten something old and think, I know, where did I hear that again?
Exactly. And even the conspiracy theories as well, that like surround these historical events. There's just so much to it. There's
Well,
so
that's
much
the other thing. They say that history is written by the victors, which it
Right.
is. And again, you going into history and you take a look at what has happened and what's happening in Ukraine now with Russia. Yes, they have a lot of history, but this is a tantamount of England invading Scotland,
Right.
because there's a couple of neo-Nazis in Glasgow.
Yeah. Who would
You
have
know,
thought? Right.
although saying that, you
Mhm.
take a look what happened in Northern Ireland right up until the Black Friday Agreement almost.
Right.
You've got the British military invading and arresting British civilians for terrorism. But you've got the Ulster Volunteer Forces, which were unionists, and well, as in the British Union.
Right.
And then you had the IRA, who were the Irish Republican Army, who were fighting up in the north, but were supposedly predominantly from the south. And
Right.
then, of course, you've got bombs going. But the difference between the Ulster Volunteer Force and the IRA is the UVF didn't plant bombs on London soil.
Mm.
That was the IRA. They took
Right.
the fight to them.
Got
But it is kind of like tantamount to something, you can't,
Yeah.
these things, I mean, it's just, we kind of like assume that it's going to stop, and then we have
Yeah.
people saying either God's going to come and save us from this, or the Palladian aliens are going to save us from this.
I know. That's
really, have we not actually thought about saving ourselves here?
I know. As I said before, in one of our latest, I can't remember if I said this in one of our latest videos or not. I don't know if aliens would even want to come and visit Earth. They're probably like I said, look at that place, like, oh no.
Well, if you take a look at the whole,
we're going to Earth, kids. Going to the cesspit of Earth where they all, gunning each other down, and they'll probably look at us like, if they're up there actually watching, they're probably like, what are you doing? Just destroying each other in your lives. Like, what are you doing?
Why are we even bothering trying to save you, you peasants?
Their intelligence is like up here. They're probably like, yeah, we're not going to bother with that. I'm not even going to go there. Mark that one off the map.
They're not even going to save the best of us. Be done with you.
They're out the tourist guide. Yeah.
But, yeah. Well, on that alien note, and before we frame again by accidents and oops, that is it. And what can we say? But please do like our channel.
And subscribe,
and
guys.
Please subscribe. We are Devil's Advocate, and we'll see you soon. Thanks for joining us.
See you later, guys. Bye.
Bye.